it's overwhelming if you think I have to be a professional before I start. You have to have a beginner's mindset and know I'm going to suck at
Yeah.
chapter 1. And I have to be okay with me sucking. And I have to be okay with it being embarrassing and sloppy and ugly and not get discouraged by that, but go, okay, I'm
Yeah.
learning and I'm going to keep learning. And eventually my sloppy, ugly is going to start to get a little bit better. And that's one thing with anything I've done. There are people in and it's not, and I feel like people say this about the horse world. People also said it about photography world is you have two camps. You have the people that are really great with the beginners. And then you have the people that will just put them down. Everybody has to start somewhere. Everybody's going to be a beginner at this and be the person. If you are in chapter 20 and you're looking at somebody at chapter 1, be the person that makes them want to continue. Be the
Yeah.
person that inspires them to do better instead of embarrasses them for being in chapter 1, because everybody's been in chapter 1. Everybody. Nobody's born good at anything.
And the people who are really doing well at it and feel secure in what they're doing get really excited about helping other people who are trying to get into it and to start and starting where you're not good and things don't look pretty.
There are healers on this planet with the power to soften the suffering of mankind, yet they have remained in the recesses of the world, abused, discarded, and labeled as trash. This is The Touch of a Mustang. I am your host, Shalise Clough, and I'm here to tell the story of wild horses, Mustangs, and the humans who are discovering and sharing their gifts while working to protect their well-being and preserve their spirit, so this divine power won't be lost. Join us on this quest with the wild Mustang.
Nicci, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be good talking about Mustangs and probably some of the craziness that goes on with Mustangs and having family.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So where does your kind of story with horses start? When did you first get involved with them?
Like most little girls, I feel like if you're a horse girl, you probably were born that way. It's a genetic thing. I don't know. It didn't run in my family. None of my family, we didn't have horses. I just was infatuated at an early age. And like I kind of said before, my parents were always supportive, even if it wasn't their flow, if it wasn't their lane. And that's something that they worked really hard to allow me to enter into. I think I was 7 or 8 when I started riding at a local barn, and they paid for lessons. And when I was old enough to help out, I mucked stalls and hung out all Saturday and helped with writing lessons. I taught writing lessons for a little bit. And so I probably took lessons from 7 or 8 until 17, maybe. Of course, then it's like cars and boyfriends and everything.
Yeah, that
So
seems
stuff
like a
slows down.
typical storyline, like the horses drop
Right?
off in adolescence.
Not sure if it was a wise decision at the time, but it is what it is. But yeah, so I showed for the barns, rode barn horses, never owned my own horse. I had good friends with horses. We'd ride at their houses. I dabbled in mostly English, unless I was at my friend's house. So I did hunter jumper seat. I did some dressage. I kind of just went all over the board with it. If it had to do with horses, I was there. I was for it.
Didn't matter too much what it was, huh?
Nope, didn't.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it started pretty young.
So it kind of dropped off in adolescence. How did you then find your way back and into the world of Mustangs?
It was decades later. So my husband and I are high school sweethearts. We started dating when I was in high school, and we got married.
Wow.
Engaged when I was 17, married when I was 18, and we had our first baby. I was pregnant at 19, had him at 20.
Dang.
So
good job.
It was like, that was just, I thought, oh, well, I'll get back into it eventually. And we thought maybe we'd have, 2, 3 kids max. We have 8.
That's life.
And they were born pretty much back to back. So we
Wow.
had 8 kids in 12 years.
Wow.
And
see, I thought I was wild, but you have me beat.
I look back and I'm like, people are like, how did you do it? I don't know. You just do it. You put one foot in front of the other and you just do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, when you're living something out like that, it doesn't seem wild until you're looking back at it. And that has to go with a lot of my life. I like being able to step back from it. You're like, wow, that's not conventional. But while you're doing it, it's what you're doing. So yeah, I took a long break. After my 8th was born, I was 34 when I had him. And I started kind of thinking about it when he was a toddler, and we had the land, and we'd purchased the land in the house. We built the house and purchased the land when I was pregnant with our second. So we'd had it a while, but that was the intention, was we wanted a country place so we could eventually do something like that. And out of a whim, my daughter and I kind of started seeing Mustangs. And I'm like, this is really cool. My oldest daughter at the time was 16, 15 or 16. And she's like, let's do this. And my parents were always the parents for me that would support that, that wouldn't say, oh, you shouldn't do that. You can't do that. That's not something we should do. They were always the ones that told me like, let's figure it out. What does that look like? Let's figure
So
it
you're
out.
like, great, we got to do it.
So I'm like, okay. But I don't go into things blindly. I do tend to research and sometimes I can get stuck there. But we went to a Mustang gentling clinic that was near us. And I don't even remember how I found it online. We're Googling things. I don't know. But I found one and we went and she wanted to adopt those two right off the bat. And I said, we didn't have a barn. We didn't have a fence. I'm like, well, are we going to put them in the garage? So that was March. By May, we had a barn, a paddock, and horses on the way.
Wow.
So that's kind of how we moved on that. It was,
Yeah, but a good lesson for her to realize, like, there's work that goes on behind
yeah,
it before you can get to the fun
yep.
part.
And she helped me hand dig every single hole that fence. We did not have a tractor. We had a hand auger and then a gas powered hand auger that we used to do the entire pasture and the entire paddock.
The two of you did?
The two of us did.
That's incredible.
Yeah. While my husband was at work, that was just, we would be busy digging holes.
Yeah. But what a cool experience to have together.
Yeah.
Like, there's something cool about working with your kids and
Yeah. It was a lot of
accomplishing
fun.
something.
And that
Yeah.
was over so we adopted them in 2021. So while it wasn't in the beginning of COVID, it was in kind of that lockdown. Everybody's not doing anything. And we had decided at that point, we were going to just make our home, since we had to be there all the time anyway, like the coolest place we could possibly imagine. So we dug a pond that year. We got horses. We did a lot of, again, unconventional stuff, but it made it a lot of fun.
That was really fun. Where did you guys find the horses that you brought home?
So again, I cannot remember how I found her. Meg from Unbridled Ranch, and she has become one of my very good friends. She had done, I think I started following her on Instagram. She was doing a red roan at the time that was gorgeous, a little strawberry roan, and another horse. And I can't remember what the other one looked like. And I thought, okay, reach out to her. And that was the first two horses I think she had ever tipped, because she was a tip trainer back when that was part of the Mustang program. And I was like, we want horses. We want horses. How do we do this? And she was so great because, mind you, here we are, a 16-year-old and a 39-year-old who are, I had ridden, I had experience with horses, but it had been 20 years prior. Outside of just some pleasure riding here and there, I hadn't ridden competitively or regularly, and I'd never owned a horse. And I probably would have told myself, you're crazy. That's stupid. Probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
This is your
those
first
are the
horse.
best things.
Don't get two wild Mustangs that have never been handled before. But she kind of knew I was already set on it. She gave me all the information I needed to get. She was super helpful along the way. We could not have them at our house right off the bat because they were not tip trained. They did not. I don't know what the requirement is now for you to have them without 6-foot fencing, but that time they had to pick up all 4 feet. I think they had to load in a trailer. So they had tip trainers at the time. So she kept them. We picked them out down in, is it Falls Creek in Tennessee, I think is one of the holding facilities down there. And we showed up there, me and my daughter, to our pickup truck and drove down there. Never met Meg before, stayed at her house, and then drove with her. She lived in Kentucky at the time. We drove down to Tennessee and we arrived. We didn't realize that we were picking out of horses out of a Mustang Magic pen. So they were some really pretty colors. They were some flashier ones. They were made for people that were coming to pick up for Mustang Magic. And now that I know what that was and are kind of in that world now, there was a couple of really cool trainers there that I had no idea who they were at the time.
Yeah,
They were doing.
you didn't even know to be impressed, huh?
No, I didn't. But they got first pick. And the horse that I wanted was a Gruya. Picked her out. Of course, domestic horses, you pick them out due to, you ride them, you check their papers, you check all the confirmation. It's like wild Mustangs, you go in and be like, that one over there, that one looks good.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that ability to do that.
Right.
So I picked out this Gruya as my first choice. And then I got a second choice, third choice, fourth choice based on the photos that Falls Creek had posted. And they all went, all of them. So we were kind of down to, because we got last pick, we were down to what was left and I just couldn't make a decision. And then I get a call in the middle of all this that my third born and fourth born were in a T-bone accident, like a
Oh
car
my
T-bone,
gosh.
and they were
No,
getting sent to get looked at. And I'm in my
no.
head spiral. And Meg was so like one of our, I think our main hinges of our friendship came from she prayed over me. And it was in that moment, that's what I needed. It really was.
Man.
So it all just went crazy. All of a sudden I'm thinking, what horse am I going to pick? And now I'm thinking my kids are, I'm in Tennessee. My kids are back in Illinois. They've been in an accident. They were okay, but you're still kind of shaken up. And come to find out the gruya that I picked had an injury on their fetlock, a pretty big gaping injury, probably from a trailer, getting them in and out through the
Oh,
chute. And the Mustang Magic trainer that picked them didn't think, A, they didn't know if it would heal up without stitches. And of course, at this point, we have an unhandled horse. So what are the
yeah.
probabilities of actually getting stitches? B, you would add time and you have 100 days. So it wasn't a good choice for her. She defaulted that to us and said, do you want her? And I said, absolutely. So they, loaded him up, scared him into the trailer. Cause at that point, that was pretty much all he can do with him at
Yeah.
the point.
That
You
is
start
pretty
driving.
accurate about what you do.
Yeah. I mean, you flag them in, that's the only way they can go. It was pretty uneventful, but it was just a crazy day in my mind, just because of all the
Oh,
new
yeah.
excitement and then the car wreck and everything. So it was a very eventful day.
A
It was
lot
a
of
character
emotions,
building
I bet.
day.
Yeah. So how did that go with the injury on the Grula?
It was, and of course, most of the story, you look back, hindsight's 2020, and you see God's hand in it all, but
Mm,
fine. Nothing came of it. So Meg
wow.
had our horses for 30 days because they had to meet requirements to come home to our house because we had 5-foot fencing and she had 6-foot fencing.
Right.
And she kept me posted the whole way and said, everything's looking good. It's healing up. It doesn't look infected. My horse, so we got 2 horses that day. I got one and my daughter. Mine was the Gruya and hers was a bay. And my horse was actually the first horse to pick her feet up. And she was ready to go before my daughter's horse was ready. And she was a little bit trickier with her feet. And that was the only stumbling block there. But we hit it. I want to say it was 30 days. Maybe it had been a little bit more. But Meg drove them up first. We didn't have a trailer. We had no way of transporting them. So she transported them up for us. And actually, that's what she does now. She transports Mustangs when people adopt them and transfer them to wherever they need to go. So she did that for us and dropped them off. And that was, I believe, July. It was a couple days before my husband's birthday. It was in July. So from March to nothing to May adopting horses to July of having them in our house. It was a in 2021.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Did your daughter have any experience with horses before this?
So I have 4 daughters, and the older 3 took riding lessons close to us for maybe a year or 2 prior to that with a friend of mine. And so I don't even think we told the girl that we were doing riding lessons with that we were getting, because I figured everybody's just gonna think I'm crazy and try to
They're
talk me
going to
out
be
of this.
crazy. They
I'm already
probably
there.
would have tried to talk you out of it. I had lots of people try and talk me out of just the idea of getting a Mustang.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I can see where this looks really stupid on paper.
Yeah.
And most will tell you, like, do not match somebody who doesn't know what they're doing with a horse that is even green, let alone completely unhandled. So I am not advocating that. I don't think that's for everybody. I know my personality, and I knew that if I believed I could do it and I put in the work that we would get it done regardless. I'm stubborn. So we did it, and my daughter did along with me, and it worked out. It worked out well. So
Did you have any doubts as you're going through this process and kind of doing
that's a
the
loaded yes, but it wasn't doubts, like long-term doubts. It was in the moment, what am I doing? How do we figure this out? What did I get myself into? But it was never, I shouldn't have done this. It was just like anything, when you hit those hard spots, you always second guess. Or at least I feel like I do. Maybe
Oh,
not
yeah.
everybody, but
I think it's
as
pretty
confident
normal.
as I seem and I feel, I always hit spots where I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And I have to figure this out because I'm already in it.
Yeah.
But that's part of putting faith over fear, is you have to just step out in that faith first and worry about the hows and whens later. Is that smart all the time? Probably not, but it's better than being stuck, never doing what you really want to do.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. I think we stop ourselves from a lot of great things because we imagine the worst instead of just, taking a step, seeing where it goes and what
Absolutely.
happens. So you get the horses home. Was it like you imagined? How did that all go once they were home?
So 2021, I gotta think back. This has been a bit. So 2021, my son child got married. About 2 weeks before we got married was our first sit I could get on. We had saddled, we'd gotten over saddling. So Meg did the tip trainings. When they came to us, they could lift feet, they could load into a trailer, and they could be led by a halter. That was the extent of the tip training. Meg did a great job. But when they came to us, we're different people. And the only exposure that these horses had been with her and occasionally I think her husband. So it wasn't that we started from ground zero, but we definitely didn't start we didn't pick up where she left off.
Right.
We definitely was a reverting back several steps. So we got them leading again. We got them to trust us with their feet. We started work with a saddle. And I will tell you what, we started with a gifted saddle. This gifted saddle was an old Western pleasure show saddle. And if you know anything about Western pleasure shows, they are 500 pounds of metal and leather. I'm exaggerating, but still, when you're
But close.
when you're holding a saddle above a horse's, and bringing it up and setting it down,
Yeah.
because you don't just plop it up there. You've got to
Swinging
get
them up
used to
there,
them
yeah.
swinging it. We got to work out. We definitely got to work out. And I finally decided, like, we've got to find something a little easier than this. So we went and bought a $175 fabric weaver used. I don't think we ever even rode in it. It was just one we could toss up and down real easy to get them used to it. We got them cinched. We got them running with it. And then it was, okay, what's next? Now we got to get used to having somebody on their back. And that was right before my son's wedding. And I had great success the first time I got up on her, but I am a little bit impatient. And if I feel like this is working, I'll just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my muck boots. I had no intention of doing this. So I'm not putting my feet in the stirrups because that would be stupid. I do know that. I've got rubber grippy boots on and I don't want to get my foot stuck and, the whole 9 yards. So I'm up there. Everything's great. Get down. Elated. Completely elated. About a day or two goes by and we're doing the whole thing again. Something hits her butt in the process and she takes off and I don't have my feet in the stirrups. My husband has no control over the situation. She's just doing like laps around this little round pen that we have. And I'm going, okay, where do I bail? Do I bail? Because I'm not
Yeah.
staying on. I'm 39 years old. I haven't fallen off a horse in forever. I'm trying to find the best way to
Yeah.
land in my head and not kill myself. And I landed, my husband said, your feet touched before I had my feet over my head. It was
Oh my
it was a
goodness.
rough landing. And so I got a little bit bruised up on that. My back, I needed to take a week off. But my son's wedding was like in a month. And I said, I can't break my arm or
Yeah.
anything like
Maybe
that.
I
not right
shouldn't do
before
this right before a huge family event.
So we took a break and then got back at it the next spring because that was end of October. And at that point it got muddy, it got gross. We did not have the footing to do something safely with untrained horses. And so we picked up again in 2022. And that's when we really got a good foundation on my horse. And my daughter's horse was a little bit different. It's a little bit way different personalities. And she sent hers to a trainer, which was the best thing that she could have done with hers.
Yeah. So many good points you bring up in there that are things like you don't think about when you think you're going to bring a horse home, especially a Mustang, like all the different variables, from like the tack and gear and like what's going to work best for you to like them coming home from a trainer and being like, well, you're a totally different person. You have different experiences, a different approach probably. And, then even the weather and all these different variables that are going to kind of impact the experience and how long it takes and all the progress and goals. After you had your crazy second ride or sit, like how are you feeling? Were you like, I'm fine, we're gonna do this again? Was it a little, what am I doing?
I guess did you ride growing up? Did you ride as a young child or teenager?
Yeah.
Okay, so you probably know, at least in my anecdotal experience here, when you're a teenager, I would hop on anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about it.
And you know everything and you know how to do everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was never capable of dying.
Right.
I wouldn't ask, is this horse broke? Does this horse know how to do this? Does this horse rear? Does this horse buck? I would just, okay, it can wear a saddle. Awesome, it's rideable. Which was probably a mix of ignorance and overconfidence, maybe. But it worked and I was okay. It worked out. But as a 39-year-old mom of 8 who, has taken care of kids and knows her own mentality, it scared me a little bit.
Yeah,
because
the stakes are a little higher.
I thought It felt like I broke my back. I
Oh,
didn't, I don't
man.
think. But I'm thinking I don't want to hurt myself. And this I mean, even under the best circumstances with trained horses, it is a dangerous sport. That being said, depending on what your passion is, there's always a risk for reward for stuff. And I still this day know that it's a dangerous sport. I know that's a dangerous sport with my kids, but at the same point, if you are passionate about that, that is a risk you're willing to take. And I would rather end my life and say, not end, but at the end of my life, be able to look back and say, I took those chances and I may not have come out perfectly and I may not have come out with a, you know, not scarred body, but I did those things. And I'd much rather that than live to 100 and never do any of those things.
Yeah.
So some people's thrill is riding motorcycles and they feel dead without it. Some people's thrill is skydiving. Some people's thrill is taking the trash out. Your level, it just depends on what your thing is. And my thing was
Yeah.
horses. But it was an eye-opening experience that, okay, what do I need to do to make myself as safe as possible? But also where does my mind need to be that I'm not always going to be afraid that something's going to happen? And I think every time you get near a horse that's not specifically trained, easy broke or kid broke or grandma broke, you have to talk yourself through that, or if you've had a wreck recently. And that's not something I remember as a teenager going through. If I took a fall or a stumble, it was like, oh, okay, you dust yourself off, get back on, you're fine.
Yeah. It's wild how
And
it
as an
changes.
adult, it's a little bit more of a struggle, but still you have to be able to get back up there when you're physically able to get back up there and do it again. Otherwise you just let that your ego lie and you can't. That's not a way to live. I don't want to live that way.
Yeah. That's cool. So, like, what happened with your next ride, your next attempt or
So my horse was really good about lunging with a rider. And I know, again, that's one of those things you have to know your horse and you have to know
yeah, so
their
important.
ability to respond to a halter or a bridle or wherever you're lunging with. You were lunging with a halter at the time, and your ability to control it. And Ember, so my horse is named Ember, the Gruya. Ember was really good at responding to face pressure. So if she got overly stimulated or spooked or scared about something, as long as you kept her and pulled her back, she would come back to you. So she gets scared easily. She still sometimes gets scared of silly things, but will come back to you. She doesn't overreact. It's not like she rears up and throws herself on the ground. Now, my daughter's horse is a little bit more of a bigger reactor,
Oh,
but
man.
less than set her off. So knowing the difference in the horse, I said, we need to start with a lunge line. I think that would be our best bet. And my husband doesn't lunge. And my second youngest daughter, my 14-year-old, said, well, I'll do it. And I would rather be in control of the horse. She didn't know how to control the horse, but she definitely could sit it. She could sit out more bucks than I thought this horse was willing to put up, especially since I've been on her and I had ridden around. Only thing she did with me is just took me for a little crow hopping thing around the pen at a fast speed, but had somebody been there to hold on to her, I don't think it would have been as big of a reaction. And so I said, okay. And we did get her first technical ride so it was my 14-year-old sitting. I had the lunge line. And of course, the minute she felt the bounce on the back, which is I think what spooked her with me on her last time, she kind of took off and I was able to kind of pull her back to me. And that session ended so well. Once she realized that bouncing was not anything that was going to kill her, it was just that weight kind of being redistributed in the saddle. She's like, oh, okay. And if you look at the clips, because we did that whole thing recorded, if you look at the clips from the very beginning to the end of the session, which was 20 minutes long, it wasn't even that long. It was a totally different horse. She's like, oh, okay, cool. That wasn't something to panic about. And then after that, it was pretty, she's really smooth. I mean, she's a really smooth horse. So even Faith, who was used to riding some very well-trained, 1D barrel horses, said she feels like butter compared to some of the ones I've been on.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool to kind of see it all come together pretty quickly.
That is cool. And then how are things going with the bay during this time?
So the bay, I'm trying to think if I don't think at that point she'd made it to the trainer. We had done some saddles. She bucked like a bucking. I mean, she bucked like a rodeo bucker once the saddle was on. She did not like the feel of that saddle. My daughter did that, and I realized with her reactions were way different. And I said, I can't do this. I
Yeah.
shouldn't say, yeah, I'm not willing to do this, and I'm not willing to let you do this. So we need to bring in some help. So she actually had Hey Girls Mustangs, which is Audrey, and I can't remember where she's at now. She might be in Kentucky as well. Took her for 3 or 4 months, and she did a really good job with her. And she came home, and the problem with her now is that my daughter's just recently married. She's moved out. So I still have her. What I need to do is probably just trade her off. I just, at this point, so I know horses are move and sell. I know people, she's not a good fit for the kids I have at home
Mm,
because the kids I have at home are not, I don't feel comfortable with them handling her. She is a really good horse, but she needs a really confident rider.
yeah.
And I just don't have that. I don't have the time for more than one horse with 8 kids and all that,
Yeah,
and
no, it's hard to find
little
the time.
girls. So, but I've yet to do that just because I know how horses end up the pipeline, and I'd rather her be a companion to my animal and us use her how we use her, which is as a pet at the moment,
Yeah.
than her
We
to
have
end up in a.
some big pets also.
I know. But, I really don't wanna end up I don't wanna do right by her. She's a great horse. She'll make a great horse for somebody, but it has to be the right fit for her. So right now we solely ride Ember, my daughter's horse, the Bay. She named her V8 because she's a Mustang. So we call her V.
Nice. That's cute.
And so she just kinda hangs out with us when we do stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you think you'll do it again?
I've talked to my husband, I'm like, "You need a horse." He is not a horse guy.
Yeah, mine neither.
So, I mean, he loves my horses and he will ride with me occasionally, but it's not something that he's super uh, it's not his thing.
He doesn't
So,
get the passion.
yeah.
So
Eventually, I would
frustrating.
like to get so we have our barn has 3 stalls at the moment. So we have 2 horse and they aren't stalled ever, but they have a stall. We have two of them with horses, and then the other one is our hay stall because we don't have a hay loft. It's like a run-in shelter that are stalls instead of run-ins, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So we don't have the space right now to get many more than 2.
Yeah.
We had a 3rd horse for a little while, but she passed away. So we've always talked about doing it again. But to be completely honest, I would love to. I don't have the time for it right now.
Yeah.
And struggle to find the time for to make myself as consistent as I need to be with my own horse. And I'd hate to not feel like I was doing justice if I got another one. So right now, no. In the future, never say never.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's smart though. And it's good to, realize your limits, that you're not
Yeah.
getting in over your head. That's definitely important, especially with Mustangs and all that they can entail. And like you say, like the huge variance of the horse that you may get and what it might require of you, whether that's financial or time or learning, any of those things. So definitely important. What are some of the kind of lessons and takeaways you took from bringing Mustangs into your life?
It's a lot. There's a lot of confidence that you start off with none because you just don't know. And you don't know if, you hope it's going to work out, but you never know what's going to happen. And you never know if I try this, is this going to go well? Is this going to be something at the end that I'm going to go, okay, that worked out. And obviously you can always adjust course and make it go a route. But looking back, it's like, okay, I've trained a wild horse from scratch myself. Like we've done Ember completely here on our own. And I'm not a horse trainer, and don't have a background in horse training. I mean, we did a little bit of training work when growing up riding, but it was very minimal. And in my mind, I thought it was more than what it was, because I think when you get finished horses, when you're riding finished horses and even halfway finished horses, it doesn't require the amount of horsemanship knowledge that Mustangs do, or that training a horse does, or that starting a
True.
colt does, and even domestic colts. The world opened up to me when I started realizing all of the stuff that went into getting them desensitized, getting them used to stuff, getting them where they're not spooking at everything without flooding them. All of these things, I had no idea back when I used to ride. Had that been taught to me, along with just heels down, chin up, shoulders back, looks great, smoother transition, ask for the flying lead change. If the mechanics of riding, if the mechanics of horsemanship were taught along with the mechanics of riding in most horseback riding lessons, I think your outcome would be totally different.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're really right. We teach such limited information about horses with the assumption that you're going to have a horse that doesn't need you to be very present or knowledgeable about them. And yeah, kind of teach some very basic different mechanics for riding, but not necessarily for your interactions with horses. That's very true.
So, yeah. So my confidence in my horsemanship went up even when I didn't think it needed to, I guess that sounds arrogant. But, It was ignorance. I didn't know what I didn't know back then.
Yeah.
And I thought, what, you start getting into this stuff, and in this day and age where with Google and YouTube and, I laugh. I always say I'm YouTube educated, but it's
Yeah.
in the same sense, you can learn a world of information easier than you ever could in any time in history. And I have a love-hate relationship with the internet. Trust me.
Yeah, same.
I really
Same.
do. Sometimes I talk to my kids, I'm like, I really wish I would have raised you in the 80s and 90s because
I
it's so
know.
much
Can we just go back
so
in
much
time?
easier.
But wait, I do need my Google Maps.
But then I think, okay, if I wanted to learn all this stuff, I'd have to go check books out from the library, which would have been one. We're in a small town. I mean, the town that we live in is 400 people, and we don't even live in town. So,
Oh, wow.
it's just one of those where the world is at my fingertips, good and bad. But if you choose
Yeah.
to look for the good in it, you can really open up a world of education and learn off the backs of, Buck Brannahan and all
Right.
the
From
other.
the best.
Yes, and for free.
Right.
Like, I can't even imagine getting that knowledge in any of my barns, even if I look at the wisest people there, and I respect the barns that I rode at, but having an unlimited access to that person was not, you got them for an hour, your trainer you got for an hour, a couple times a week, once a week. And even then it was, again, more focused on your riding and your, showmanship than it was about the horse itself. And learning that is, I think, crucial. I think it should be taught together 100%.
I agree. I wish that it was more. And I wish that, sometimes kids had horses that were not, they had to do a little bit of work to to kind of get that relationship going. Because when you have a horse that's just kind of been there, done that,
Yep.
gone through kids or people, then yeah, it's a totally different experience than a Mustang that you really need to build a relationship with. And like you say, you have to know the differences in the horses and how they're going to react. And I found the same thing. Like, I didn't even think about most of that stuff until I got a Mustang, It was just kind of like, they're misbehaving. This is how you correct it. And beyond
Yep.
that, just hop on and ride.
And it grows you. It 100% grows you. I would hope. I don't think it's for everybody, and I'm not trying to say a Mustang is for everybody,
Right.
but
It's definitely
when you
not.
get that experience, it really makes you aware of things that you would never be aware about before. Just like they in the wild have to be aware of everything around them just for their own survival. When you're dealing with an unhandled horse, you have to be aware, and there's little things. So much stuff I've learned about just body language. And it's amazing to me that you can change nothing but the intention in your mind, and your horse can pick up on it. And that's something, again, anecdotal evidence here, but with my riding with domestic horses was not a skill they had. Or if they did, I didn't notice it. And if they did, it wasn't as sensitive.
Yeah.
But I'm talking the two Mustangs that we've gotten, the Mustangs that I've been around, are sensitive to where your eye contact is. If you're slightly above ahead of their drive line or a quarter inch behind their drive line, it's so minute that you can almost like think the thought. And because you thought the thought, you make a slight difference. And I don't even know what the difference I made was, but the horse
Right.
picked up on it.
Yeah. It's crazy. So true, though. They're so in tune to everything that's happening that you're like, I didn't
Yeah.
even realize I was feeling nervous, but they
Yeah.
could tell that I was feeling nervous, and that totally changes the experience.
And it's funny. I just had my daughter. So my second daughter is now 17, and she was riding Ember the other day. And I said, you're not looking where you're going. How is she supposed to know? And she's like, well, she's not going to know because I'm looking. And of course she looks the other way, and it's okay. She didn't pick up a feel on the rein. It was just probably a slight balance adjustment in the seat that she felt. And it was like, okay, we're going that way now. I said, you're having a hard time. You're pulling on her more than you should because you're not looking in the direction you're going. And it was wild.
It is really cool. It's neat to see them. It's so good for kids to just realize the way you present yourself to the world then reflects back and impacts how kind of the world reacts to you. So super cool.
I don't know if this is true. I didn't fact check this, but I've read several sources that your horse will sync their heartbeat to yours within like an 8-foot, I want to say, radius, which is crazy to me. And I know there's been research done on just the impact and the relationship between horses and humans. And if you look at some studies, it's wild. It is really wild. And it's, they're used for therapy. I've never used them for therapy, and I've never actually been a part of that. That would be really cool to see. But I have heard stories about that blow my mind sometimes, about just how that reflection of your own emotions can be such a big thing.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's almost like a different world, like one we don't see until you can kind of slow down and tune yourself into it. And then it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like an invisible world it comes to the physical sense when you're there. You don't see it, you don't hear it, but all of a sudden you get a horse there and you're like, oh, there it is. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
very tangible when you're feeling it, but kind of hard to explain or to
yes.
create in any other way.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what did your husband think about all this? Like, let's go get some wild horses and bring them home.
I have the best husband in the entire world. I feel like I he is definitely my opposite, but in a good way. He's always been one where I will bring him a crazy, wicked idea and he'll be like, "Cool, awesome." Like, no big reaction, no like, "Are you nuts?"
He's an enabler.
"No,
Just kidding.
you shouldn't do that."
Yeah.
No. I mean, he's never like on board with it. "Let's go. This is awesome." But he's always supportive. It's always me
Yeah.
with the crazy ask, and it's always him that figures out a way so that we can do it, because I've done some I've come to him. We built our first house when I was 19 from a drawing I drew on a piece of paper.
Oh my
And I'm
goodness.
like, this is the house I want. My dad was a contractor. I drew it out on a drafting board and had like the walls, and we built that house.
Wow,
We
that's
built that
awesome.
house. And then 2 years later, I wanted land and I said, we should do this again. So I was 21, I think, when we built building this house. And yeah, again, I brought him a piece of paper and this is what I want the outside of the house to look like. This is where the rooms are going to be. Okay, cool. Let's do this.
Yeah, that is really neat though.
So
That's
he's
cool.
been super supportive. If I told him I wanted to bring another one, he would probably question my sanity, but it'd probably happen.
Yeah. It'd be all right anyway.
Yeah. I keep telling him we need to have, I want a Palomino out there. I really love blue roan. You just kind of have
Yeah,
to,
you need one of each color, right? At
right?
least some color variation out there. Yeah, that is the fun thing with Mustangs is you don't really know what you're getting. There's some, small hints you can look at, but beyond that, it's kind of just choose your own adventure and
Yep.
see
Yep.
where it goes.
And even so, how they act when we picked up our horses, we kind of were looking at how they were reacting to other horses in the corrals with them. They were in with maybe 5 or 6 horses apiece and how they were acting. But you're getting a 15-minute glimpse of
Yeah.
a very not normal situation. They're put in with horses that they just arrived in a trailer with and are now in a new place, and they're 24 hours out from that. So they're not what you're going to see all the time. And personality wise, I don't think I had any clue about what one was over the other. They didn't look mean. They didn't look crazy, but they also, was not able to distinguish this one is going to be the one that reacts bigger, but to less things. And that was just something we figured out working with them. They're just two totally different personalities.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey and a process, which is part of what is so cool about it because it's not a horse you're jumping on and riding. It's a horse that you're really, like you said, you're going to learn and grow together and find out a lot along the way and need to use all that vast information that's online now.
Yep. Yep. And it's when you're making your own horse and not buying your own horse, I will say there's advantages to not having to work with problems other people have put in them because, riding at barns, there's always that horse that they always put the beginners on that that's dull, it won't do anything, but still has all those, okay, well, this is what you have to do with this one because that's just the way they are. And they've been like that for 10 years. You've got kids pulling their mouths. They're not sensitive. So even the horse that's been ridden and started in a way, the leverage of my legs, how I use my seat is going to be different from who trained them. Hopefully I ride decently enough that it's not going to be that much worse. But when you have other people trained, how far forward you put your foot when you're asking them for a your front move over and how far back you put your back when you're asking for a hind yield. It all depends. And when you're doing it yourself, you're getting a horse that's super sensitive to you because you're more consistent than what if everybody in the world's riding your horse.
Yeah.
So
that is a definite benefit. Like you are able to teach them the way that's going to work for the two of you. And yeah, every horse is still not, mechanical creation. They all have feelings and
yep.
emotions and experiences that are going to come with them, which like you're saying, if we could teach the people interested in horses that a little bit earlier, a little bit more. It would be really good for the horse world as a whole.
Yeah, and good for the horse that they're using in that, because I've been on horses where you've had to train out not bad behavior, but just learned behavior. Because every time you ride a horse, you're teaching them.
Yeah, learn
Every time.
behavior.
Yeah, and when you've got a lot of people riding horses, you're gonna have a lot of variables going in, and that is one nice thing with the Mustangs is they are a clean slate. You're not working against anything else that may not have been. Now, that being said, I was always scared, like, am I gonna mess up? Am I gonna make this right? Am I gonna do right by this? And I think you probably could totally mess up if you really tried. But you do realize that you don't have to get it perfect every time. You can learn this as you go. You can touch things up. You don't have to have it all figured out when you start. You can step out, learn, grow, get to a point where you're stuck, step out again, learn, grow, get to a point. You don't have to know Z to get started with
Mm,
A. It's just not
yeah.
necessary in almost anything that you do.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, because if you went into it thinking that I have to be buck before I start, you're never going
Yeah.
to start. It's just
Right.
not going to.
Yeah.
You get inspired and you learn this step, and then you go, okay, well, I need to be better. And you take the next step, and you learn, then you try, and then you grow. And then you get stuck there for a second and go, okay, I need to be better. And you take another step, and you try and you learn and you grow. And you have to get to the end goal. And really, there's never any end goal, one step at a time. You're not flying to that end step. You're not ending up in chapter 20 after reading your first chapter. You are taking it step by step. And it can be anything that you do, especially when there's not an end goal and it's like a lifelong thing that you're never going to get to arrived at. It's overwhelming if you think I have to be a professional before I start. You have to have a beginner's mindset and know I'm going to suck at
Yeah.
chapter 1. And I have to be okay with me sucking. And I have to be okay with it being embarrassing and sloppy and ugly and not get discouraged by that, but go, okay, I'm learning. I'm
Yeah.
learning and I'm going to keep learning. And eventually my sloppy, ugly is going to start to get a little bit better. And I can look back and laugh at that. Definitely know that that's where you start. And that's one thing with anything I've done. I've gotten into photography. I've gotten into horses. I've gotten into a lot of different things. There are people and it's not, and I feel like people say this about the horse world. People also said it about the photography world is you have two camps. You have the people that are really great with the beginners. And then you have the people that will just put them down. That,
Yeah.
Part of it is just ignorance. Everybody has to start somewhere. Everybody's going to be a beginner at this and be the person. If you are in chapter 20 and you're looking at somebody at chapter 1, be the person that makes them want to continue. Be the
Yeah.
person that inspires them to do better instead of embarrasses them for being in chapter 1, because everybody's been in chapter 1. Everybody. Nobody's born good at anything.
Yeah. And I think the people who are really doing well at it and feel secure in what they're doing get really excited about helping other people who are trying to get into it and to start and starting where you're not good and things don't look pretty.
Yeah. And it's easy to look at that and be like, oh, well, that was a mistake. Well, of course it was a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes and you're going to make mistakes the entire way along. And those people that go, okay, well, like, let's figure this out. Let's help you figure this out and help you move forward and help you want to move forward our goal, our absolute goal. And that's hopefully we can all learn from that. I feel like that's the kind of person I want to be. I don't ever want to be somebody that's, I can't believe this person's doing that. And part
Yeah.
of the reason I didn't talk a lot about never owning a horse before I started this with a lot of people in the industry was because I knew that's where it would go. My face doesn't lie sometimes. And I'd be like, did I ask for your opinion?
Yeah.
No, I did not. Thank you. Move on. I probably wouldn't have been very nice with my words. But again, I met several people and my parents are my neighbors, which is great. But that were like, you can do this for sure. Like,
Yeah, that makes such a
you got
difference.
it.
Yeah,
And
it's
even
so
when I didn't
defeating
feel
if
like
you
I got
get
it.
Yeah, it's so defeating if you get the other message when it's like you already know that you don't know everything. You already know you kind of suck.
Yes.
But to have those people that are like, that's okay, like keep with it. And I think the cool thing about that is if you can do that to begin with, you can do that every time you hit something new that's hard, that you don't know how to do, that you're not very good at. And what a difference that makes just over a
Yeah,
lifetime.
absolutely. If you're too embarrassed to suck at something to do it, you'll never learn anything. because that's your starting block. You're always going to start there.
Yeah.
So, and I think part of, and that's of course my love-hate relationship with the internet. And then part of that is when you put yourself out there, and you probably know this from being online.
Yeah.
And, you can do two things. You can only put your highlight reel out there. You can only put what's perfect and nice, and, and everybody's going to say, well, you're fake, or it's not realistic, or it's not, showcasing everything. Or you can put everything out there, and then you're picked apart by the mistakes you make. And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's not an easy road to be on when you feel like, I'm going to put this out there, and I'm going to have to put up with the idiotic comments like, well, that shouldn't have. Of course it shouldn't have happened, but it did. And this is what we're
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. It's really tricky kind of exposing yourself in that way in
Oh
something that
yeah.
you have this passion for, this desire to do, but maybe you don't know how to quite get there yet.
Yeah. But the main point is you're trying. And I am 100% open to constructive criticism or ideas or knowledge, but it's got to come with a kind heart. And when you're delivering things, like, we've got to learn that. We've got to learn that in every, not just the horse world, but in life. You're going to, like I said, you're going to be the person that discourages that person from trying again because they feel silly, or you're going to be the person that inspires that person to try again because you can go, hey, I screwed up. We've all screwed up. This
Yeah.
isn't this isn't going to kill us. We can just keep going. With horses, it might kill you.
That is true. There is a real aspect of safety involved. But you're right. Like, you can't ever truly learn until you start doing something. And, I think we've both kind of talked about how we did this, but it's maybe not the best way. But I do think there is something really incredible to like going in kind of hard and crazy. If you're willing to learn and you're willing to learn how to do it the right way, because taking Mustang, those untouched or just tip trained is a totally different experience than getting one that is under saddle and you think it's going to be perfect. And like we've kind of already talked about, even that horse may have some quirks that are coming out down
Absolutely.
the line. But when you've worked with them so much, you can kind of be like, oh, I know exactly what happened. Oops, we messed up there.
Yep.
Or, this horse is different. And now I know about this horse. I have one horse who she does not like being tied up. She will flip out with pressures against her. And, I didn't know that at first. So there are some times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. But now, I know, like, even walking, if you just try and pull her, she'll freak out. But if you just let her have it back for a second, she's like, okay, I just want to not be forced. I want to like choose
Yep.
to walk beside you. So those are all things that you get to learn when you kind of do go into it, where it's like, I don't know it all. I'm going to do this. I want to do
Sure.
this. And I'm going to learn along the way. And I'm going to, stay humble enough to learn. I know for me, I kind of ended horses when I was an adolescent also, when you think you know everything. So as I was thinking about horses, I'm like, oh, I know lots about horses. And then like I
Yep.
get them and I'm like, maybe not.
Right? Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is a really amazing learning process
It is.
for anyone who wants to do it. But I definitely agree, have some good mentors in place, have some people who are supporting you, and definitely take your time and learn in the right way. But certainly possible if it's something that people want to do.
Yep. I think if your heart's there, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is true. Like the heart and the dedication. Like, you started this, see it through, stick with it. Because I think a lot of people think it's going to be a magical experience. And there's some really cool stuff about it, but it's also very frustrating and discouraging.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, you really do have to realize like it's going to be a process. It's going to be hard, and willing to stick with it if you're going to have a good life with a Mustang, I think.
And I think it totally is a magical experience, but it's a hindsight. You
Yeah.
can see it in the rearview mirror while you're going through some of it. It's like not being able to see the forest through the trees. Like, when you step out of it, you go, okay, that's really cool. I look back and I said, like, we got 12 horses. Some 16-year-old and 39-year-old mom decided one summer to get some horses, and we rocked it.
Yeah.
Those years that we were doing it, and it was frustrating. It didn't feel as magical as it.
Right.
I can speak about it now.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like, you have days or months or years of like hard stuff. And then it's like, oh, you get like an hour or something that's really awesome. And you kind of got to
Yeah.
grab onto that and let that carry you through, because
Yeah.
the work comes first for sure.
And my husband knows my attitude and my mood highly depends on did I get the right.
Yeah. How did you kind of manage that to be able to work with your horse with, having 8 little kiddos running around here and there and everywhere?
Well, they are definitely desensitized to kids
Yeah.
yelling, screaming, running, and dogs barking. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Those are
My
important.
horse my horse is actually Ember is a totally different it's weird to see because I've never seen this in such clarity with other horses. Totally different horse with my little kids. Totally different horse with my little kids. Like she knows. And the Instagram account that I used to have based around our family, when I would share clips, I would have people go, "She acts totally different around little kids
Oh, really? They noticed too,
from the
huh?
start." And she does. I mean, you could pick up on it, no problem whatsoever. But finding time was the biggest issue for me. It still is the biggest issue for me, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm not consistent like I should be. I should be more consistent. I can't should all over myself though, because it is what it is. I have the time I have. My life is what it is. I hate people who say we all have the same 24 hours in the day because we don't. We don't. We really don't. I look at people with one kid or people with special needs kids or people with
Yeah.
aging parents or whatever the case is. We all have a different experience. We may have the same amount of time, but what we have to fit in that time is all different.
Yeah. Different priorities, responsibilities.
Right. And it is based on priorities. And I love my horses, but my kids are my priority and my horses are
Yeah.
what helps me get through that priority.
Yeah, I know.
But,
I know. Sometimes
I
my husband will be
still,
like, the horses cost so much. I'm like, well, they probably saved you a lot.
right.
I'm just
It's cheaper than
saying.
therapy, dude.
I'm still here. I'm still mostly
Yeah.
mentally capable most of the
So,
time.
but yeah, but that's a comparison issue. Like I can't compare my time. I look at the Mustang makeover people that do it in 100 days, and I look at people who bring them home and have these finished horses. And to be completely honest, here we are in 2025. We've had him for 4 years. We've been riding for 2.5 probably. And I mean, I can side pass. I can do some things I've taught, but essentially I still think of my horse as a green horse. Maybe I will always think of her as a green horse because, we built this house 20 years ago and I still think of it as a new house just
Yeah.
because it was at one point. She's definitely by no means a finished, I can take her anywhere, do anything with her horse. Maybe I'll never think that of her, but I definitely am not as far along as somebody who is doing daily rides for hours at a
Yeah.
time. I can't do that. I would love to at some point in my life. I might be able to, but I don't have that ability right now. Or I do have the ability, but I have my priorities in a different bucket right now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think it's good to share that because there's not one perfect way to own horses or have Mustangs in your life. It can be okay that it takes 2 years to get them ridden. I think obviously there's some things we want all horses to be able to do so that they can live safely in the human world. But, just the fact that they have a good home and it's something that brings you peace like that is a good way to live with horses. Even
That is
when
enough.
yeah, even when, like, I'm sure we both would love it if just every day all we had to do was horseback ride. But, there's a lot of other stuff that's entailed in raising kids and just other things in life, whatever that is for people. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be excluded from this world of horses. And it can still
Absolutely.
be really beautiful, great relationship and a good
There's
part of
a
your life.
place for everybody, and this is mine. So
Yeah, well, I love that. And it's great to see someone else who's doing it a little bit different and what looks a little bit crazy from the outside. I definitely felt a little unsure what people would think when I'm like, I'm getting a wild horse with a bunch of tiny kids.
right.
Isn't this a good idea? It really was, there's a lot of good
It
stuff that
was,
came
yeah.
out of it. Yeah. So tell us what you're up to now and about the things that you're doing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Everything and anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got 8 kids. 3 of them are moved out. 5 of them are still at home. One of them's a senior at our local high school. I homeschool 4 of them. I run a business, the branded Bronc I'm in my messy shop, so you can't hear my dogs.
Oh, that's awesome. So do you make the clothes and stuff there?
I do. So I
That's
I
cool.
do embroidery. I do leather patches. I have an engraver that engraves leather. So I started out solely doing custom leather patch hats. And I was kind of all over the board with that. But mostly I did a lot of blue collar or ag or ranch related businesses. And so I kind of got in that lane. And just this year I pivoted to just equine related stuff and then customs. And that's because that's where my heart is. And I can't be everything to everybody. So I thought I need to pick
Yeah.
something. And that was where I was. And I was already making a lot of, I don't have it on now, but the Mustang brand stuff for people
Cool.
because I love to wear the brand. I think it's cool. I think it's a
Yeah.
cool personalized thing, and everybody loves something personal to that. So I started doing the leather patch hats for Mustang owners. And then recently I got an embroidery machine, which again was one of those things where I had no idea what I was doing. I have never done embroidery in my life. I bought a commercial embroidery machine and everybody said it takes, a long time to figure out, and don't do it if you haven't had any experience. And what the hell, let's do
I
it.
need
And
that.
so
It
we did
sounds
it.
perfect for me.
And I figured it out and it's going really well.
Yeah.
So
No, that is awesome. And I mean, it is so much a part of if you're willing to try, you know, like that's the first step. So really cool to see the different things you can learn and do and accomplish.
absolutely.
Yeah, well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here, for talking about Mustangs. We'll definitely leave links and stuff for any
Awesome.
Mustang lovers that want to get some really cool gear. Super cool gifts to get for someone or, get for yourself because they are
Absolutely.
really fun to have, your Mustang represented. So very cool. Well, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us and learning about horses that heal and the humans who help them. We hope you'll continue with us on this journey. We'd love for you to subscribe on your favorite platform and follow The Touch of a Mustang on any of the major social media outlets. Please share with your friends, anyone who loves horses, or anyone who might be struggling and could benefit from this message. If you have felt the healing power of horses or help them in their divinely appointed mission, please reach out. We want to hear your story. As we say goodbye, always remember that the horse is always there to help you heal.